Well, how you doing out there? This is Barbara McCarthy from Beach Church in Virginia Beach, in Virginia Beach, Virginia, and I'm going to lead our Bible study tonight. We have a daily Bible study here at Beach Church, and we're just so excited that you decided to join us tonight. So I hope this proves to be a blessing for you as it will be for me. So today we're going to be looking at Proverbs 22, 23, and 24. So in Proverbs, I'm going to call this Bible study on wisdom's wings, okay, on wisdom's wings, because, wisdom is going to basically help us. Once we learn wisdom and we basically incorporate that as the way we're going to live our lives and use that to guide us, that's going to help us soar to heaven. So wisdom's wings take us to heaven. So just remember that, okay? So in chapter 22, we start out, it starts reminding us that having a good name is so very important, the character and worth of the bearer of their name, right? It really even goes beyond your death. How many times do we talk about people that we've lost, that we've loved, that were wonderful Christians, did, good soldiers in Christ's army? And so basically your good name does go beyond when you pass away. Also remember from this chapter that rich and poor are found side by side. But let's deal with this. They're equal creatures in God's eyes. So please make an effort to bring that message to your brothers and sisters, especially when you meet someone maybe who's homeless or less fortunate than you, or, just try to maybe put a good word in to brighten up their day just a little bit. That's how I can encourage you with that, okay? And then also, we want to be generous to the poor. We don't want to enable the poor if they're misusing their poverty. But at the same time, we want to help them. We want to give them food, definitely. But then try to help them get their life back. Try to help them, refer them to a good ministry like Union Mission so they can figure out a way to get back on their feet again, get a job, get some food. That's what I would recommend as Christians you aim towards. So anyway, also it starts reminding us again through these chapters that it's very important to to instruct your children parentally so that the value of God is instilled with them. It talks about the rod. Everybody's got different opinions on that. Some people, it's corporal punishment. Some people use timeouts. I'm not going to judge that, but that's up to you. But whatever you choose, however you choose to do it, parental instruction is extremely important, okay? So then it talks a little bit about being lazy. In 2 Thessalonians, it tells us if we don't want to work, we don't eat. So it's pretty clear there. Sometimes people that are lazy will tend to make excuses. So, as we work with people like that, we have to point that out to them and help them back on the right path, okay? And then, of course, there's people, that ruin our good name. There's people out there, Jezebels, that try to seduce people, and we have to be very careful of them. So basically, in chapter 22, then, it talks about soaring like an eagle towards heaven, and he who guards his soul will be far from them. The people that are, people are always trying to speak into your heart, okay? You have to guard your soul from that. It's very important. You'll notice I talk about that as a recurring theme in my Bible studies, because in this world we live in, with all this sin and everything, we have to be very, very careful about who we choose to listen to. What gospel we choose to accept. This prosperity gospel. Look that over and pray about that. Because, many more people are being sucked in by that than you know. And then those people who have the discipline of wisdom in their lives, they avoid life's dangers, don't they? If you're a wise person, you're going to avoid impulsivity. You're going to avoid putting yourself into dangerous situations. So the discipline of wisdom helps us make good decisions, safe decisions in our lives, okay? And then basically, train a child, just to summarize on the children's stuff, train a child in the way they should go. When they're old enough, they won't depart from it. Now, some of us that have had unfortunate situations where children did sway away, or go away from what we've taught them. Or maybe we didn't teach them anything and they've moved towards God. But either way, I can tell you that I swear, I went away from God for a long time in my life. But in the back of my head, because of what I had been taught, I knew that I was sinning in my life. So then I did come back. But I'm still glad that I had that basic training that I was recalling from that helped bring me back, okay? Okay, so let's move to chapter 23 now. And in chapter 23, we're going to be talking in verse 7. We might as well start there. For as he thinks in his heart, so he is. And that's what I just got done saying. For as he thinks in his heart, so he is. So that's what I was talking about being careful who you let come into your heart, okay? So basically, this chapter talks a lot about what are true riches. What are real true riches, okay? Well, it tells us to not eat of the bread of the stingy man, to not desire his delicacies. Well, if he doesn't want to share with you, he might have all these fancy things to eat, and you just might have a bunch of porridge. Just don't worry about it. As long as you've got food to nourish you, don't worry about these stingy people. Be pleasant about it if they're stingy with you, and maybe they'll learn for the next time. Just don't crave what they have, and be willing to change your approach to get what they have. And then also, selfish people are always worrying about what food costs, okay? But, it doesn't really matter what food costs, does it? Right now, well, it does matter. I don't mean it that way, but it's the reality is what I mean. So how can we help our brothers and sisters in this crisis? So I can encourage you to tell you that there are excellent lists on the internet of every food bank in this town. I went and got it a few weeks ago. And this way, you can either start one at your church, or you can see all the churches that already have, and maybe people can carpool to bring the people in need to the food bank so they can get food. So then, that's a positive way that Christians can help the hungry. And then, also again, it reminds us again in this chapter to listen to your mother and father. So that's a continuous theme in these Proverbs. So basically, don't be overwhelmed and seduced by the atmosphere of power and luxury. That is just a huge problem in our country because of the wealth we have. And don't make wealth your idol. We have a lot of people that are living in the U.S. that all this richness that so many people have, they're just so dedicated to these idols, the little G's, the little gods, okay? And then don't neglect wisdom, because the more you neglect wisdom, you're going to fall into that power where the power and luxury will seduce you, okay? So don't apply wisdom, apply wisdom to your heart so you can gain instruction. Now listen to this real quick. The love of Christ overpowers the love of sin. All right, that is a key line really in your conversion process, in your salvation process. The love of Christ overpowers the love of sin. So once Christ gets into you, once you accept Christ into your heart, when his love gets into your heart, you're going to start reevaluating all the sinful things you might be doing in your lives. And hopefully you'll reassess them and stop whatever it is that's going on. So the love of Christ overpowers the love of sin. I think that is beautifully stated. And then finally, we move into chapter 24. And we see that in verse 3, it reminds us that through wisdom is a house built. Okay, so wisdom definitely, at least for me, helped me make some wise decisions. Once I became fearful of God and I surrendered to him and started trying to make wiser decisions. I used to be crazy, some of the things. I never thought about the outcomes or anything, but now I think about it. So through wisdom is a house built, and by understanding it, it is established. So basically, this is interesting. A righteous man may fall 7 times and rise again, but the wicked fall by calamity. So what does that mean exactly? Well, people that are, like let's say people that are dealing in drugs. I know these people well because I worked in this arena for a long time helping people in addiction. But, they'll tell you stories about how the cops are always after them, how, they're having, surveillance out of all these big calamity things that are going on. Chaos. Calamity is chaos. And so that's how your life is when you're like that. When you live a life like that, I mean, when you don't have wisdom guiding you, the wicked fall by calamity. Eventually they get caught up with, they get arrested, they go to jail. I mean, whatever happens to them, but God does take care of things. We shouldn't be judging. We shouldn't be saying that God is going to take care of all these problems in the end. So then don't go against your neighbor as a witness unless you really have a good reason. You might hear people talking about your neighbor, and you kind of just go along with them to be with the crowd there. Well, don't do that, because you don't even know anything about what you're talking about. So basically you're just lying against this person, and it's a character assassination. So please don't do that as a Christian. So then on the other hand, I just want to close with cautioning you about being spiritually sluggish. That is not wisdom, and that is not going to take you on wisdom wings and help you soar to heaven. So spiritual sluggishness comes from a neglected soul. So what is a neglected soul? I think you can figure it out. A neglected soul is a soul that lives for the world. I don't want to gain the whole world and lose my soul. That's what the neglected person does. They live for the world, okay? And they lose their soul in the whole process of it, okay? So anyway, basically the seeds, what do you think about the seeds that they sow, okay? So basically, they sort of have like barren seeds that they sow, instead of having seeds that are sown with grace. And then basically what happens then, those bad seeds, they overgrow with thorns and nettles, and then it chokes out all the good stuff. So spiritual sluggishness, being lukewarm, maybe you could call it, is just, or even less than lukewarm, where you're just completely sluggish about your faith. Just keep a guard on that. Try to get up and pray every day. So anyway, do you want to be spiritually wise? So get on wisdom's wings and soar to heaven. That's what I'm going to leave you with today. And I hope you're all enjoying your summer. I know it's been hot out there. On the 29th, I think it's the 29th of this month, I believe it's this coming Thursday, Beach Church is going to go up to the boardwalk after our service is over. And we're going to visit families up there, pray with anybody that needs prayer. We might have some worship music for you, and we'll have some water for you, because obviously this weather is not good. So we'll be in the midway part of that boardwalk, and you might see us starting every other Sunday. Okay, so good night, and I hope you have a blessed evening, and God bless each and every one.